Today's episode of the Mind Sculptors podcast is made possible through the gracious support of our Patreon members. If you wish to join this esteemed group, simply visit patreon.com/the Mind Sculptors and become part of the SCULPTY family today. And of course, if you prefer a simpler gesture, we invite you to subscribe, leave a like and comment on YouTube, or leave a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts as a most fitting offering to the ever-watchful algorithm Jesus.
Bad fucking Photoshop image of me. Yeah, great, thank you. It's not Photoshop.
That wasn't Photoshopped. That's just
image. Yeah.
That's just 100% a picture
Raw.
that Cassidy got.
Hello, everybody.
It's okay. You saw the picture I sent you of me that I was captured on the Reds fan cam on Saturday night, looking very enthused.
We have to add that in post for sure.
Yeah, for context, we went to who were they playing? The Reds. The Cincinnati Reds were playing the Tampa Bay Rays on Saturday, and we had really good seats for it.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, with like humidity and all of that, it was like over 100 degrees and it did not get colder as the sun set. So I was sweating. The people behind me had their knees in a place where if I leaned back in my chair, I got kneed in the head. So I was just unhappy, but didn't want to verbalize any of this to anybody because everybody else was having a great time.
Yeah.
So I was just sitting there
miserable. And
as you can see in this picture, just so thrilled. But it was a great game. And then they had we went to the post game concert and it was a Jimmy Buffett tribute band that was excellent.
Okay.
Oh, hold on. I need to show you what we got. I can't believe I almost didn't put this on for this episode. Everybody at the game got a Cincinnati Reds / Margaritaville Hawaiian t-shirt.
It really is crazy how like one man could get really high and sing some marginally acceptable tunes, and that really defined a generation, you know?
Yeah. My father-in-law is a huge Jimmy Buffett fan, so
that's
he was quite excited.
I feel like Jimmy Buffett is the hallmark of music. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. People who really just don't want to feel anything complex, you know, like it's, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way. My dad loves Hallmark. Like he'll put it on all the time. He's like, yeah, other shows have like death and hard themes. He's like, sometimes it's good to just get out of it all. And I'm like, all right, man, you need a hug, I think.
It is so great because it always makes me feel like I'm at a beach. And sometimes I just want to be on a beach.
I don't get me wrong. Like I'm being a little tongue in cheek. The vibes are immaculate, right? Like Bruno Mars has often gone on the same thing. He's like, he makes music just to make people feel good. And I'm like, yeah, that's great. Like if that is your whole vibe, fuck yeah. I just think the fact that Jimmy Buffett has managed to make it into like it's too nice to be a cult, but it's not a cult.
Parrotheads are a little bit like a cult. We'll be real. Rest in peace, King. But yeah. So anyway, we're here to do the July power rankings. July has come and gone, and we've got some really interesting stats to talk to you guys about today.
Yeah.
Because we had a month where just stuff looked really interesting. Yeah. We do now have a little bit of housekeeping that I need to do. And that is to update you on our top 16, what was formerly known as the top 16 percentage. And the top 16 number is now become the top cut stat. And that includes all top cuts. So if it's a top cut to top 10, that's a top cut. If it's a cut to straight to top 4, that's a top cut. Everything that is a top cut is included in the stat.
Cool.
So this is quite literally what the conversion percentage on, is what that is supposed to be. I calculate it a little bit more of using more traditional methods than the way Top Deck does. But with that being said, like that is just one piece that I wanted to make sure that I updated you guys on, because you will notice that instead of a T16 number, we have a TC number. And so we're going to be talking more about that. You still gather the same information from it. It just, we now have a better data set.
I love that.
So with that being said, Ian, what's your honorable mention for the month of July?
My honorable mention this month is probably going to make Cal sad, but it is Tivit, Seller of Secrets. I mentioned Tivit here because Tivit had a good month, and yet I am not currently a believer in the deck. And so like this is mostly to recognize that, tournament win, a couple top cuts, right? Like for Tivit lately, I feel like this is not a bad showing. I just don't know that it makes me feel any different about the deck at the current moment. You know what I mean?
That's kind of how I feel. I agree.
And so like that's generally it. Like it's nothing too deep necessarily, but like it's the case of just like, I think the deck is solid, but I don't think it is one that I'm like, hey, bring this to tournaments. But clearly people who are bringing it are at least having marginal success. So that's something,
Yeah, I fully agree. I mean, it is an improvement over last month, a 3 percentage point improvement on win percentage, which is not nothing, but when you're going from 24 to 27, we're still talking about right on the averages. So, we're not, we're not, doing anything super special with that. I still do love the deck. It's still my deck of choice, but
absolutely.
My honorable mention for the month, this is where I have Kefka Court Mage. Kefka actually regressed a little bit this month overall. Went down 3 percentage points on its overall win percentage, but did see like some gains specifically in tournament wins with one tournament win. But mostly the gains were in that top 4 cut percentage, where it just put up another consistent month there at 10%, which is great. We love to see it. Overall with Kefka, I know you had some great success with Kefka a few weeks ago.
Yeah,
I think I'm just going to preface this as we go into this. I am going to be fairly soft on the not Fantastic Four, Jesus Christ, different FF.
Final Fantasy.
I'm going to be a little softer on the Final Fantasy cards than perhaps some others, and that's because they're new, and I feel like they have a bigger like burden of proof because of that newness. And right now with the numbers, they're still not cracking big enough widespread play for me to feel confident in any of the numbers that they're giving off. And the ones that are giving off a ton of play, i.e. VV, are not performing well. So that gives me a little bit of pause. With them. So it is not me not believing in them. It is me just being cautious.
Well, I mean, like here's a stat for you, right? Like I have gone to, I want to say 8 tournaments within the past couple months, right? Or something akin to that. VV is the only deck I have not top forward with.
I think VV is not great, actually. Like its stats are not wonderful, and
its stats are not wonderful. And I think the deck probably just needs a bit of a like I've already sort of talked about this publicly. Like I'm kind of planning on breaking it down to build it back up again type of deck, right? Like might make it basically like closer to Kinnan, like.
Yeah. I mean, my fear with it though is
it's just not good
enough. It just came out, right? So if we're already taking it back to formula, that doesn't make me feel great about it, because we've had months to work on this at this point.
Yeah, but I don't know that that's necessarily like I think sometimes what happens with these decks, like we talked about this, I mean, ad nauseum when Dockside got banned, was like how many play patterns we just took as established and then rolled with it, right? And so like for us, it may just be the case that like, you know, I did well the first weekend with VV, kind of built a certain way, and then a couple other folks sort of mimic the pattern. Don't get me wrong, like VV, the patterns with VV have not been exhilarating. Like they've been okay, right? Like it hasn't had many top fours, all that kind of stuff, right? So like clearly that pattern kind of worked, but maybe it's a time for a full redesign, right? Like, and like we're not even coming close to like utilizing the commander to its fullest potential, which I think could possibly be the case, you know?
Yeah. But all that being said, like I think Kefka is like is in a very similar spot. It's not doing great. It's doing fine. But I recognize that it's gaining a lot of popularity, in part because of your success with it, but in part because people just like the card.
I think people were clamoring for me to play it, right? Like it was to the point where I posted my video for this last weekend where I had already top forward with Kefka, but people were still like, play Kefka. And I was like, guys, just wait for this video to come out. Like I promise you already
literally just wait a couple days.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
I'm going to throw this out here too. I think, so as a major distinction, I am much more comfortable at this point now that we've had 3 months with the cards, or like 2.5 months, right? But like
two full months of events.
Yeah. I feel comfortable like speaking on these cards a little bit more, right? Like, but I've been in the trenches a lot too, right? Like I think you're looking at it more from a data set where I've been like, I've had to play against and with these cards a lot right now, right? And so like, especially once again, popular ones like Kefka, right? Like that is one where I'm like, it is staring me in the face quite a lot. So I feel much more comfortable giving it a more solid ranking than maybe what is out there, you know?
Yeah. And again, this is why I love doing it, the two of us, because of the way we approach these things are just, I think it just gives such a good
balance. Yeah. Agreed.
All right, let's get into this top 10. Here at number 10, Ian.
Yes.
Your number 10 for the month of July.
For the month of July, my number 10 is Rogsai.
Oh boy.
Pretty reasonable fall from grace. Because Rogsai has been doing fine. You know what I mean? Like it's not been doing, it hasn't impressed me at all. And I think the deck is still solid, right? But like, it's not like there were many times with Rogsai where I've seen a pilot do something that I wasn't expecting. And it absolutely took the floor away from me, right? And like I really redesigned my thought process around that deck, right? But I haven't had that lately, and I keep, you know, if we're gonna play a deck that's supposedly like the fastest deck in the format, it has to answer the question why this and not that, right? And so I've been proposed a lot of why this and not that arguments when compared to 5-color turbo, when compared to playing Blue Farm, when compared to even now playing Kefka, right? The why this and not that arguments are becoming stronger against Rogsai as of the current metagame. Now, don't get me wrong, the deck still has a lot of merit. I'm not saying that it's not, right? But
for sure,
I think the conversation is a lot more nuanced than it's ever been when you know, related to Rogsai. And I think that's probably a good thing for the health of the format, because I think that deck has really problematic play patterns from time to time. So that all being said, I am kind of okay with it being down to 10. I still think it's a very good deck, right? Like, to be honest, this month is one of those months where I wish I could have 20. Like there were
a lot of decks. I had a hard time whittling mine down also, I'm going to be honest.
Yeah. The tier 1 feels like it is really leveling out right now. Which I feel really good about. That is a really good place for a format to be, right? Yes, there are still obviously decks that we're going to talk about up at the top that are still going to feel like the top, but like the thing is, it's like every deck that we're going to talk about today feels like it has a place in those conversations. And I think that is really big, you know?
Yeah, I feel like that like for a while there's been like a top like 3 or 4 that kind of felt like they were always there and a bit static. And I feel like there is more room for movement in that than there ever has been. We might be a little reserved on what we go with this month, just because, you know, we don't want to overreact to a month.
Sure. Yes, exactly.
But
I think that's big too. Yeah.
I do think looking at things, I feel optimistic. So but yeah, Rogsai, I don't have it at 10. I have it just a bit higher, not a whole lot. My number 10 is where I have Marnius Calgar. Same place I had it was last month. Listen, Marnius had a really good month, had 3 tournament wins, had an exceptional win percentage, and I still would like to see its numbers not oscillate so wildly, to go from 20% win percentage 1 month and what was it last month? Sub 25 conversion percentage.
Yeah.
To, where it is now. And even then, its conversion percentage is not that much better than what it was last month. It's like about a point better. And so that doesn't speak to the deck doing better. It speaks to individual players doing better, if that makes sense. Because when you're the way I'm looking at it, when you have, your top cut numbers look very similar from month to month. But you see a stark difference in that top 4 and that tournament win number. That to me says people did well this month in that top, but the ability of getting in to that top cut is about the same. And so that's why I keep it here at 10. I still think it's very good. In the back of my head, Tivit is kind of like my 10A or like 10B, if that makes sense. Because I think Tivit is like in a very similar spot. But, I think it's been a little bit more volatile than Marnius, or not. It has been less volatile than Marnius, but has left less top end than Marnius does.
Yes, it has a higher floor, but a much lower ceiling, in my opinion. At
least is where the numbers are concerned. It is my personal favorite deck. I still think that a competent pilot can pilot it very well to a tournament win and do really well with it.
I mean, that asterisk applies to anything we talk about here, right? Like the top 30 decks in the format, you can show up and win a tournament with, right? Like I think I showed that by bringing loot this month, right? Like no one is taking loot seriously at this point, and I showed up and I won a tournament with it, right? Because I think loot, I mean, it has enough tools, to be fair. Like I actually think the deck is like probably better than people give it credit for. But the point being still, like every deck here has the pilot skill modifier on it, right? Like we're just talking about, on average, what we would expect from, especially when we look at these raw numbers, right? Like what we're expecting from the community as a whole, right?
Right. And so that's like, I kind of want to put this asterisk there because like, if you're looking for a deck that is going to be a little bit better on the averages, Tivit is that deck. If you want this style of deck, if you want a deck that maybe has a little bit more top end, but its floor is way lower, Marnius is going to be a better option for you if you like a little bit more risk with those sorts of things. But that is kind of the difference is Marnius's floor is real low, but it also has quite a high ceiling, and Tivit kind of just hangs right around 25% no matter what. So, that is what I have here at number 10. Number 9. Last month you had Glarb Calamity's Augur. Ian, what do you have there this month?
I have Minstrel here this month.
Okay.
I very much believe in this deck. I think you and I talked a little bit pre-show about how Minstrel is still like effectively in its youth, right? Like it is still a baby. And with that being said, it still had a killer month, right? Like 2 top 4s for a deck that is like, I can't stress enough, one of the more complicated decks I've ever seen, right? Like it was to the point where I was taking time to make sure I knew all the lines because of how complicated it is. Also, I'm taking time because I don't have a bunch of these random fucking lands. But all that being said, right? Like I think Minstrel is very solid. And yes, I am biased because I think the commander is very cool, right? I think it attacks at a very strange angle. I think a lot of people aren't kind of ready for it. Yes, it has some more traditional win conditions, things like ad nauseam and breach and things like that. For sure, it does those things. Absolutely. But it also has a number of different things that it is capable of doing that basically make it super hard to interact with and very, very explosive. So it is a deck I have a lot of faith in, and especially once again, I still consider it, like if it is a life cycle, it is maybe now starting to get to middle school, like as far as like, we kind of have a rough idea. It can go out and function, right? But like it is far from adulthood as far as like getting a good list locked in and having that, run through. So I think there is progress to be made, and there is innovation still to be had. And there's a lot of exciting stuff coming down the pipeline for anyone who's interested in this Wandering Minstrel deck.
Yeah, I like you said, I'm a little bit softer on it, and I said this at the top of the show. I'm just kind of writ large a little bit softer on the what is it, the Final Fantasy. I keep wanting to say Fantastic Four. Fantastic Four First Steps was phenomenal, by the way. But yeah,
so much so that it has brain rotted you today.
What'd you say?
I said so much so that it has brain rotted you today.
Yes. Well, I also play a lot of Marvel Snap, and Mr. Fantastic and Human Torch are like two very good cards right now in the format. My biggest issue with the Wandering Minstrel is like I'm just not blown away by its numbers yet. I see a good showing from it. I want to see it excel. You know what I mean? And I think that's kind of what I'm waiting for on it.
Pretty reasonable.
My number 9, this is where I have Rogsai. Rogsai, like you were saying a little bit ago, has been kind of on this, I don't want to say it is backtracking or like backsliding or anything like that, but it's performing exceptionally average. And that is not what you expect from this deck.
I agree.
It's very odd. I will say its top cut percentage did improve dramatically, although I'm going to say this a lot when I'm looking at top cut percentages this month as opposed to last month, is we are looking at a few more like data points than we were previously because of the wider net that it casts. And so like there is a little bit of context there. But like just generally speaking, like it's hovering right around 25% win percentage over the last few months, just in total. And, it didn't even get a tournament win this month. It did have more top 4s, which is good. But I am feeling Rogsai's grasp on the current state of the format kind of get away from it. I felt like for a while, especially when we were in that really heavy mid-range period, that it was attacking from a unique angle and was able to hit at the mid-range format in a really, really good, unique way. I don't think Rogsai is built to deal with these land stacks. I just don't think that it can play that game very effectively. And I think we're seeing that play out as more and more of these land stacks become more and more popular. And, I kind of lump like a Rog Thras into those lands decks category, right? That really care about getting specific lands out. And that's very pivotal to their strategies. And Rogsai does not seem like its current construction is good at combating that. And I think that is part of what is holding it back. That I feel like it is working on old data, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I have Rogsai here at number 9. Number 8, Ian, you had Malcolm Vile here last month. What do you have here this month?
Yeah, I got a shout out to Dargo Timna. I was just in a tournament with multiple top cuts from Dargo Timna. Obviously, Hebrew Hercules is kind of back at it, crushing the game with that deck. And so like, got to throw respect on that deck. It's one that like, I feel like I hear a lot of the theories behind the deck construction. And to me, I don't get necessarily how it works in tournament, but like it does. So I feel like hell yeah, like these pilots are killing it with this deck. And what I will say that's kind of interesting is that like there are decks that we talk about sometimes where like, for example, Minstrel. Let's talk about that deck. That deck is so heady and crunchy and like you know, for people like myself, it's like, I love the idea of, it's I love it. I love a crunchy little like, and then you turn this nozzle and then this does this and then you sack this land and it brings the thing. But if I lose this land, how can I pivot to blah, 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 blah. And it's like, that's not like asking that for the average player is nauseating. Right. And so like there has to really be something to be said about like playing a deck like Dargo Timna that eliminates or like lowers the amount of potential game actions you need to think about taking and allows you to adapt to the actual things that are happening in the game more. Right. And I really
think cast big dude.
Yeah. Well, I think that might be boiling it down a little bit more than I'm trying to. But like my point is like, you know, it's not like burn in 60 card. Right. I don't think it's that straightforward. But I do think that there is a certain level of like, the deck has really clean tools, right? It's got its silences. It's got its, you know, like all the black explosive combos, right? Although I know a number of the winning decks aren't even on Adnaz and stuff like that anymore. It's like, and this is what I mean about like things that like kind of perplex me with it. It's like, it's Mardu mid-range, right? Like it's like not even playing a lot of these huge payoffs that it historically did, right? So it's doing a lot of cool stuff. I think there's a lot of pilots out there making the deck look good. It's, as I said, like one that I still feel like I'm confused sometimes looking at it, like, and I think I just need to see it. Like I would love to play against some master Dargo Timna players.
Yeah. I love Dargo Timna. I love this deck so much. It's so cool. I have a friend from Lincoln who is a big Dargo Timna player and he talks to me about it every now and again. And every time I see it, I'm like, damn, this deck whips so hard. Yeah. I love this deck.
And it's got 2 wins this month, right? Like it's pretty big.
I had one last month too. Like,
true. Right. And like, I think it's a deck that's worth respect, right? Like it's just a matter of figuring out like, well, you know, can that be translated on a consistent basis? You know?
Yeah. I mean, I can't understate how important I feel like white is in this meta game right now.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like if you don't have access to green, having white is maybe like the best color you can have access to. I do not have Dargo Timna here at 8. This is where I have Terra Magical Adept. I did not have Terra on my top 10 last month. I had Terra in my honorable mention slot. And again, I'm still a little soft on the Final Fantasy Commanders. It did come back down to earth from last month. Last month it had nearly a 45% win percentage. It's come back down. It's down to about 32%. No tournament wins, which is not my favorite. But
although less representation too, I will say this month.
It actually had quite a bit more representation.
Really?
It didn't even crack 10 last month. And this month
maybe I misread it. Yeah. Okay.
Gotcha. No, Terra got a lot more play this month.
Gotcha. Apologies.
And that is also part of why I'm feeling okay putting it in my top 10. Because when you double the number of entries, and it does regress, you would expect it to regress, but it doesn't regress all the way back to the mean. You're like, okay, there's something here.
The deck's also still putting up a 32% win rate with 3 top 4s out of 20 participants. It's like, it's not at all.
No, it's not. Like, it's excellent. So this is the thing. I want to see more out of Terra. I think 5-color Naz Turbo writ large. We've talked about this a lot. 5-color Naz is just exceptionally well positioned. But I think the biggest, issues are going to be I need numbers, right? I need more information to figure out, is this a dedicated group or is this just a good deck? And right now it looks like it could just be a good deck, but we need more. We need more numbers.
So it's my number 7 right here is Terra / 5-color Turbo. And so super happy to box off at this point.
Awesome.
I have been working with a lot of clientele on this archetype, right? Not like a crazy amount of people, but like I have a couple very dedicated Turbo players where
enough that you're working with it relatively often.
Right. This conversation comes up a decent amount during my work week, right? And so the one thing that I keep having to hammer home with these folks is like, this is a punishing archetype.
Yeah, it is.
I think it is a very, very powerful archetype. I think 5-color Turbo is very strong right now. And you and I keep talking about how well positioned it is. And the fact that I'm calling it punishing and saying that it's still putting up some pretty insane numbers should be pretty indicative of how the deck ceiling is, right?
Right.
Because if it's a deck that can kick your ass for one single mistake and it's still putting up 32% win rates with across 20 different entries, that should be a very big green flag for a lot of folks, right? Like this idea that, oh, hey, this deck will absolutely make you suffer if you tap one wrong mana source. And also, get ready because it's a train and it's coming, you know? I really, really think that if you're willing to take on the 5-color turbo mantle in the same way that you're willing to take on like a ROG mantle, right? I think 5-color turbo is a little bit more inorganic. And so therefore it feels a little bit harder to pilot. For example, things like knowing that your mana dorks are basically ROG racks, right? Like it's a weird mental translation.
It's a little unintuitive.
Yeah, exactly. But at the same time, you also get like Valley Flood Caller. You know what I mean? But it's one of those archetypes where it's like you might only have an intuition, right? Like that is a card that you might just be stuck with in a game. And the difference between knowing when you need to set up a breach pile that is going to fall on its face versus when you are going to set up a breach pile or knowing that like, hey, this is the time to pivot to Savine's Rhystic Mystic, right? Like knowing that distinction is 100% those micro decisions that are going to define how well people do on this archetype.
Right.
Why are you vibing so hard right now?
I just want a cheeseburger in paradise, baby.
You're like whatever the Jimmy Buffett version of aura farming is what you're doing.
I'm in Margaritaville, baby. It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Wasting away again on the Mind Sculptors podcast.
No, I agree with a lot of what you're saying there. I think the biggest thing that I think, I know I said this a little bit ago, but I think white is just so exceptionally good in this current metagame. Yeah. Because I mean, do I really need to explain it to everybody? Like silence is good, right?
Silence good, Enlightened Tutor good, Esper Sentinel, White Omniscience, also known as Smothering Tithe. Like we really
White
need
good.
not say more. White good, yeah.
White good.
Okay, before we move on, I think you and I should do a Margaritaville episode of this podcast. And by that I mean we both show up with Margaritaville vibes. We're drinking daytime margaritas. We gotta set a little bit of time aside to do this one because obviously we got to figure out what we're gonna do with the rest of our day. But I think, or just plan to do this at night. And I think we build. I think Francisco has to at least be present in the deck build.
Okay.
Just we got to build the most Margaritaville deck of all time. While maybe a little intoxicated.
I love this.
Cool. Let us know in the comments down below if this is actually anything people would watch.
Listen, if anybody knows me well, I don't love drinking alcohol kind of generally, but I do love tequila. So I'm always down for a margarita. My number 7, this is actually where I have Dargo Timno. We have ours a little flip-flopped here. This is a deck that's been on my radar for like a while. So I've been kind of just tuned into what the stats for this have been for a little bit, and I just kind of keeping an eye on it. I'm like, I don't know how I feel about Mardu for a while. I feel like I know how I feel about it. I like where it's at. I like what Dargo Timna's cooking up these days. And last month it was at a 30% win percentage, had a tournament win, had a couple, only had one top 4, but had a pretty, handful of top cuts. Again, those were top 16s at the time. And those numbers improved this month, and it had 2 tournament wins, and it still had an above 30% win percentage. I like what Dargo Timna is serving. I think it is exactly the type of stuff that is good at combating what is going on in the format at this moment. I can't understate how important white is to turbo, mid-range, or any of those strategies right now. I think it is so important that white, and I think this is part of why I like Dargo Timna over something like Rogsai, right? I think white is just that good right now, and I don't think you are getting that much out of red to justify not having white. I really think so. And I think Dargo Timna gives you a reason not to play blue. So, I mean, I like what that deck is doing. I like what it's selling.
Turns out Timna, good card.
Shocker. Number 6, Ian, what do you have here at number 6? You had Ral here last month.
Yeah, Ral's fallen off pretty hard for me. I still believe in Ral, and maybe should have put him on my top 10, but Ral fell off my top 10 because the results are not great. And also I'm noticing in top 16 play right now, it feels like, do you remember the month after Atali got really popular and everyone was just like, we kick Atali in the dick until it falls over dead?
You mean this month?
Yeah. That's what it feels like this month is for Ral too. I've played with a couple really good Ral pilots. I was literally just in a top 16 with a Ral pilot, and they just like, everyone in the pod was just like, what if you never took a game action actually? And so like the lack of grind plan there really made that deck feel tough. Right. So transitioning out of that, we're talking about Marnius. So Marnius had such a good month. I really couldn't put it anywhere lower than this. 3 wins for a month is insane. It was very, very good. There's only 2 other decks that have those numbers this month. And I think Marnius is very, very powerful.
There's only one other deck that has numbers like that.
There's 2. Oh, damn it. I got thrown off by Unknown Commander. I thought it was
Unknown Commander really is. It just always remember at least 15+% of the pool is big old question mark.
Hell yeah, dude. Yeah, sorry. You got me again, Unknown Commander. Although I gotta say, Unknown Commander's got some great tournament wins under its belt this one. Shit.
Oh, that's
okay.
funny.
So Marnius I think is solid. I think it is. And I'm gonna do a lot of comparison to my next deck list with this and why Marnius is lower. But I do think Marnius has a lot of things going for it. I think there's at least a bit of a semi-established formula that seems to be productive, right, with Marnius pilots. I think Esper is so good that you can kind of just put a mustache on an Esper pile and call it a commander and you're fine, right? And so I think like Marnius also just gives you inevitability in the command zone. I've like played up, like I've literally blind picked up several people's Marnius decks and played them in pickup games, and like I feel like I win most of those games just because you have enough good cards in the deck that you're just kind of like, okay, yeah, sure, eventually I get there.
That's
right?
Kind of how Esper in general feels to me.
Yeah,
Esper in general is just like, if you're a decent pilot, you can pick up most Esper decks and do well.
Honestly, my biggest criticism of Marnius right now is that like there's a couple synergy pieces, but the question of like why play this over Blue Farm is like it is due to the individual reflection, right? Like it doesn't feel like the scaling that like Marnius is known for, being able to scale harder than Blue Farm, doesn't feel like that's very relevant to a lot of the play patterns nowadays, you know?
No, I fully agree with you.
Yeah.
My number 6, I had Ral here last month. So yeah, I have Ral here at number 6. And part of why I have Ral here at 6 still, even though it didn't have a tournament win and it didn't have any top 4s, its conversion percentage and its win percentage stayed exactly the same. We're off by like maybe like its win percentage this month was 301. Its win percentage last month was 302.
Yeah.
That's good. I don't know what they tell you out there in the East Coast, but out here in the Midwest, 30% win rate and Commander is pretty good.
Agreed.
I do think what you are identifying though with its issues in top cuts is very real and very worth being aware of. I think that is something that holds it back. And again, I'm going to beat this horse until it's dead. You got to have a good reason to not play white right now. Let me expand that. You got to have a really good reason to not play white or green right now. And I question whether Ral is totally there. I think that it has some of that, but I want to see it be able to fight through some of those top cut issues a little bit better.
Sure.
But I also think that its consistency, its ability to do well in the Swiss, I have not hurt Rogsai in the past for its ability to do that, right? Like I've given Rogsai a similar benefit of the doubt, and I'm giving Rao that benefit of the doubt here.
Sure.
And so if it can hold and improve its top cut numbers, I'll keep it where it's at, because I think that's a reasonable place for it to be. If it starts regressing in any of those, we're coming down. But I do agree. And one thing to also keep in mind is Rao last month also did not hit 10 entries as well. And it hit almost 20 this month. And so keeping an even win percentage makes me feel pretty good about being able to increase that and keep some of its consistency. But we'll see how it goes long term.
And I think for me, like when I look at these lists, right, like I want to sell people on the lists that I think are going to get them the most money possible if they show up to a tournament. Right. Yeah. And so like if I see a list that is like consistently locking me for top 16, but unable to convert in those top pods, that to me is not worth it. Right. At least for the time being. And I think that is something to know, right? Like, you know, I'm looking at it from that perspective. If we're looking at decks that are just going to like consistently get you top cut, like if that is your goal, then Ral is a good deck for that, because the amount of times that just putting a gun to the table is enough is good, right? Like in Swiss that works, right? And there's a reason that Ral has a very solid win rate, right? And a very solid top 16 conversion, right? But I want the people that are listening to this podcast to have decks that feel like they have some sort of dynamics to them, right? And like that is what I get worried about with Ral, is that like you change the environment up like you do in top 16 and all of a sudden Ral feels a little bit less than, you know?
Yeah. I mean, this is not a new discussion we've had. We've had this discussion with Rogsai in the past. Yeah. And I think it's a very similar discussion we're having right now. Yeah. But ultimately I think Ral has the stuff, has Michael's secret stuff. Yeah. And we'll see. I am going to disagree though, about your point about white and green. I think that there's plenty of decks out there right now that are consistently operating without it. And I don't think that those two define enough of the necessity of the color pie that like we can look at the fact that like blue in combination of different things has different permutations that make it stronger. Right. And so like, I don't necessarily know that, like, I feel like that point was maybe made a little hastily is my argument. Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to get too in the weeds on this, but you know, I basically, when I'm looking at your core colors, you know, kind of look at your secondary colors, and I feel like white, or your tertiary colors, I guess I should say. But when you're looking at those third colors, deciding not to play one of them or to play one of them, I think you have to have a good reason for like not picking white or green, right? I think you need to have similarly to with like Marnius, right? Like you have to have a good reason with Marnius to not play just Tymna Kraum. Otherwise it's just worse Tymna Kraum, right? And I kind of feel that way with like white and green right now, where it's like, if you aren't at least playing one of those as your third color, you need to have like a reason. And I feel like Ral has a good reason to not do that. I feel like Rogsai has a good reason to do that. But I just want to emphasize how good white and green in this format is. But number 5, Ian, what do you have here at number 5?
So moving on, number 5.
Tymna here last month.
Yeah, this is a deck that does not have white or green at all in it. This is Kefka.
Yeah.
So you may look at the raw data from this month and be like, well, Ian Marnius kind of smoked the floor with Kefka, and not even smoked the floor. That's very dramatic, right? So important bullet points that I think are really, really important for conversation topic. 38 Kefkas this month in a month where, once again, you know, as Cal's mentioned, it's still relatively new, right? As I said, I'm feeling confident making calls, but like for a newer deck to have 38 tournament entries is a lot, right? Like there's only there are only 9 represented decks that have that many entries for last month, right? And so it's already being represented quite a lot. And it's still repping about a 27% conversion rate. It has multiple top 4s, almost 10 top 16s, and a win last month. I think this deck hangs with the big boys. I legitimately do. People have asked me, like, do you think like this deck scales with the format? And I said, yes.
With the big boys now.
Like, sometimes there are going to be decks that come into cEDH and they can play cEDH with other decks, but it doesn't mean that they're in the contention of like, hey, there's a $20,000 tournament on the line. Is this one of the decks you're considering?
Right.
And I think Kefka is one of those decks that should be in that consideration. I really, really think this deck is extremely real.
It's so funny because everybody thought that Vivi was going to be that deck coming.
Did everybody actually think that, or did spoiler season immediate gut reactions everybody have a little spasm?
I don't know. All the conversation I heard around Vivi was, this is so good, it's going to break the format. It's like Nadu again. And then Kefka's just hanging out like, hey guys. Hey.
Yeah. I feel like
Wandering Minstrels over here like, hey guys.
Yeah. People reacted to Vivi the way that I reacted to Hashaton, which is not a good look. You know what I mean? Like that's tough. That's tough.
Sometimes you take L's. Sometimes you take L's.
You know what I mean?
Just because I do need to remind ourselves how bad of an L we took on Hashaton.
Yeah.
Let me pull it up here because it's not great.
No, I said I remember quoting saying I think I'm concerned this could be Nadu level good, which was wrong. That was my worst take I've ever had. I think for sure.
I also said a similar thing. Let's look. Hashaton's win percentage is 21% on 12 entries, and how many top cuts do you think it has?
Probably none.
None.
Yeah.
Swing and a miss.
That's a tough one. That's an L. You know,
listen, when your job is to have takes for a living, you're gonna be wrong sometimes.
Yeah. I'm gonna get that one tatted on me.
I think. But anyways, I like what you're saying about Kefka.
Yeah. And the other crazy thing I think about Kefka is that I think there are bad Kefka builds out there, and Kefka's still doing well. Like, I'm aware that there are bad builds of other decks that are possible, right? But I legitimately have seen people cook with Kefka, and sometimes they cook well, and sometimes they are in the kitchen with just like a line of cocaine in their nose, and the stove's not even on, but they're just flipping vegetables in the air. You know what I mean? Like, and Kefka is still doing really well, right? And so I think that is such a great indicator for this card. The thing that I like about it, right, is that one thing that has always bugged Grixis, right, is this option of, and I think Tevesh Krom was kind of like this, but I think Kefka is better than Tevesh Krom ever was, if I'm being frank, because Kefka gives you the option. Because when you're playing Grixis, like a lot of the times you're just mulling for Necro, you're mulling for Adnaz, you're mulling for these advantage pieces, right? Or I mean, just win conditions basically, right? And what Kefka does is it gives you the option to look at the hands that give you 5 mana on turn 2 and no payoff, and it gives you the option to keep those hands and then make that a game plan, right? Just like a turn 2 Kefka is a game plan, right? It is like a Tymna or a Krom in that sense, right? And so what Kefka gives you is a level of dynamics in these games where, yes, you can kill people turn 2. You can also adjust accordingly, right? Like when I did my Kefka run, I turned 2 Naz people, fully tapped out on my main phase, still won that game. I also, played a game that lasted until time and won with a stack on a stack on a stack. You know what I mean? Like Kefka gives you both realities, right?
Yeah. No, this is a good card. I want to be clear. Just because it's my honorable mention doesn't mean I don't agree with anything you're saying. Yeah. I fully agree with everything you're saying.
Also, major shout out to Malik, who I just played in the top 4 last weekend, who was playing a completely Necroless, Nozless Kefka and still top 16 or top 4 with it, pardon me, the 10K. And so like clearly the deck is capable of existing in multiple different environments, right? And still performing well, right? Which I think is also a huge indicator, and like being completely built differently, right? Like, so yeah. Anyways, point all being multiple layers to it.
It's like an ogre.
Yeah.
My number 5 might surprise some people. This is where I have Rocco, Cabaretti Caterer. I think it's about time we put some respect on Rocco's name. Rocco has multiple months of being near a 40% win percentage. Last month, it had a 38% win percentage. This month, it had a 41% win percentage. It won a tournament, had multiple top fours, had a couple top 16, had like 4 top 16s. All of the numbers I get with this are in the green. And I keep getting numbers like this over and over and over for months and months and months in a row. And I keep being like, yeah, but it's only like 12 entries. Yeah, it's only like 15 entries. And
yeah,
I'm coming up. I don't have any good reasons not to rank it at this point.
Yeah.
And I just,
I like my counterpoint was like, oh, what happens if you take Ian Loesch out of it? But honestly, there are still other pilots doing well. So I mean, you can still do that. Yeah, you're totally on it for sure.
I don't know. Listen, this kind of comes back to my point about how good white and green is in this format right now. Yeah. I think Rocco's got a good case. First of all, there's a lot of stuff that it does really well. It's a really, really good. It operates on an axis that a lot of decks aren't prepared to deal with. Similar to what you said about the Wandering Mistral and what makes it good. Mm-hmm. Rocco is similar in that regard. Also, when you're in a format where people just aren't packing Opposition Mage, fucking go off, King, right? Like,
sorry, they're not packing what card?
Opposition. What did I say?
You said Opposition Mage.
What am I thinking of?
Opposition Agent?
Yeah. Opposition Agent. Yeah. Why did I say mage? What the fuck? Sorry about that. Yeah, but when you're in a format, I'm doing fine. It's only 2:00 where I'm at. But no, I mean, when you're in a format where people aren't playing Opposition Agent, like you can, this is like one of the best decks in that format. And it also just like nobody is playing, like people just don't play hard counters anymore. So like I'm having a lot of hard reasons to not play Rocco because it keeps doing well and it does all the things that you want to be doing in this format without black. So like, I don't know, man. Like I'm having a hard time not wanting to play this. It also takes advantage of the Rector suite. And I think that and it does it so well. And I think the Rectors are so well positioned because of the fact that they're hard to counter, they're hard to interact with. And Rocco uses them in a way that like is so perfect for what they want to be doing that I think it's really hard to not, look at this as a good deck to be playing right now. Well, I might be on some hard copium, but 2 months back to back with, plenty of months before this at 30% of nearly a 40% win percentage is a wooga in my head.
That is true. I forgot about the official metric.
Yeah, wooga, I think is the as we said earlier, the clinical term.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I have here at number 5. Number 4, Ian, you had Kinnan Bonder Prodigy here last month. What do you have at number 4 this month?
I have Rogthras here.
Okay.
I like deck's doing so well, but I keep seeing it see play, and I'm like, how is this deck doing so well? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's like so weird because like good pilots on Rogthras make it feel like the deck is absolutely yoinked out of its mind. And like, then there's like times where I see someone like mull to 4 and then like they try to take a game action and it looks like the deck is just trying to literally eat itself. But like clearly it's doing well. You know what I mean?
Have
like
a hot take about that deck.
Okay, pop off, King.
And that is people see Rograk and think, I must mulligan aggressively because that is what you do with a Rograk. And I think it is very much similar to Tivit in that it's not a deck you really want to mulligan aggressively with. It is kind of constructed to give you good 6s and good 7s.
Maybe that's why I don't like that deck. Actually, as a very aggressive mulliganer, I feel like every time I go to mulligan the deck, I'm like, all right, I'm at 4. I haven't seen a playable hand yet. What the fuck's happening?
I feel like it is a deck that is supposed to give you good 6s and good 7s. And when people go past like 5, you're not going to get good mileage out of it because it's not really built to go burn.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about that. I've seen that deck win turn 2, turn 3 multiple
times. Sure, I think it can, but like it's very different. It as a deck is constructed very differently from like a turbo deck like Rogsai, right? And I think people, or even Rog Timna or any of the other Rograk decks, right? Like it is just constructed as it's much more of a mid-range deck that has the ability to go fast if it needs to.
Yeah.
And I think people just see Rograk and think, I go fast, this turbo, go fast now. And I think that is maybe making the mulligans not great.
I don't know if I agree. I hear what your point is. I just like, I guess I don't see everyone's hand every time they mulligan, but even when I'm mulliganing the deck, I'm always like, it feels like the deck eventually wins, but like the hands are so unimpressive to start, and then it just does win. And so like, I don't know. It's obviously been doing very well for a reason. The Cradle stuff is broken. Not really much more to say as far as that aspect is concerned. The only like interesting schism of the deck is some people are on the breach plan, some people are not. I will say I've been working with a number of Rog Thras pilots recently, and like one of the things that keeps coming up is like people playing cute cards instead of good cards.
Yeah.
And like it's so easy to turn this deck into, because you play a few heavy synergy pieces, it's so easy to make this deck bad. So please don't. So please don't do that.
I also think there might be a problem with some of the deck constructions of like, I think that it's a 28 land deck that should probably be a 30 land deck.
I love the lands in this deck. Yeah, I love the land heavy versions of Rog Thras.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think that's also some of the differences. The ones that I have, done hands of that I've disliked have been the ones that aggressively go down on lands, and I'm like, y'all, this ain't what this deck is built to do. Like you gotta have good land. You're a Candelabra deck, my guy. Like, come on. So yeah, that's I have Rograk a little bit higher than you, but we'll see. My number 4. This is where I have Kinnan. Okay. I think Kinnan is in a really good spot right now. I think that it has had a good month, but it is, kind of consistently right around 27% on its win percentages, and pretty consistently has a really interesting 20% to 24-ish at top end on its conversion percentage. I'm going to be fair and give it some more time to gestate on that a little bit more, because I'm kind of readjusting my expectations on that number as we change this top cut number. Because, I'm working with new data points. So I'm trying not to penalize it too heavily on what it had done previously. And perhaps those numbers were higher in the past. And, but just generally working with the information, I do have a 20% when, tops cut percentage is not bad, but it does not inspire great, it does not inspire confidence, I guess, is where I'm going.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's bad. I think that it just, it in Rograk Thrasios, for what it's worth, I have them here at 3 and 4. I think they're both, to me, their numbers look almost identical. And especially when I'm looking at the June to July comparison, they look almost identical. Literally, they flipped their tournament wins from last month to this month, and every other number is like the same across.
I think having now messed with both decks in their most modern iterations, I'm definitely confident in saying I think Kinnan is better.
Yeah. I'm assuming you have Kinnan here at 3 or higher.
Yeah. So I had 2 and 3 I struggled with a lot. Those were 2 I was throwing back and forth. I think my final, like I was literally considering adding it because I do think Kinnan belongs here at 3. Yeah. But yeah, I agree. Like the numbers, like if you're looking just from the data perspective, like they are disturbingly similar. Right?
It is bananas. They're like they are functionally the same deck when it comes to numbers.
Yeah. Literally same amount of top 4s. Kinnan has 1 more top cut, but 7 more people playing it, but also Kinnan has 1 more win. You know what I mean? Like, so it's so close. Right?
Like the big difference I see too is like last month's top cut percentage, I think might be coloring my view of Rogthras a little bit more because it did have a 33% top cut percentage last month versus Kinnan, which had a 23%. So like, I think that might be where my bias comes from it a little bit, just because, I look at that number. And I also think that like it has a more consistent win percentage overall at 20, like it is stuck at 29% on its win percentage. And I like that in, Kinnan does have the newbies like to play it problem. And that kind of continues to be a problem, but like its win percentage went up. So like,
right. That being said, I will say like one, it used to be a much more harsh deck for new players. Right. Yeah. And despite, not loving the way the waffle version of the deck plays, like you have to give them credit because like new players are picking up the Ristic copy version of the deck and they're doing well with it. And they didn't used to do well by picking up Kinnan randomly. I mean, they did actually. That's not true necessarily. I've seen people who are like, "Oh, I picked up Kinnan the first time, won a whole tournament with it." Right? Like Kinnan is just raw power. Like there's no way like of beating around the bush there. Like Kinnan is a raw power deck for sure. Right?
I love a good raw deck.
Thanks, I hate it. But like,
listen, you can't make all the edging jokes you made last week and then be in chastise.
I made 1, and you gave me shit.
You did not do 1. You did so many. I edited that goddamn episode. Do not.
Whatever. Yeah.
All right.
No, I don't know. I think it's interesting. Like it's I also would be really interested to see what happens if you take out, like top 50 ELO players from Kinnan and Rogthras and see what happens,
Yeah. Oh, I mean, that across decks, we could have some really interesting numbers
discussion.
I wish I could do that, but what do you have here at number 2? I feel like I have a good idea of what you have at number 2, but what do you have?
It's just
Hey, so do I. So say here at number 2. Let's talk about it.
You pop off. You go first.
I think Sisay's back. I think it's so back. Let's look at these numbers here for a moment. 3 tournament wins in the month of July, 30% win percentage, which is an improvement over its 27% win percentage from last month. Had a 13% top 4 percentage, which is a huge improvement from the 7% it had last month, and a pretty consistent top 16 or top cut percentage. Although, again, we're working with a top 16 percentage last month to a top cut percentage this month. So that does skew that data a little bit. But the fact that it is staying within the same, area gives me some confidence that that number is going to be consistent no matter what. With that being said, I think that, it's really hard to look at what this deck did at 54 entries and go, wow, that is a deck that is in a bad spot. I think Sisay is maybe in the best spot it has been since the ban. I think whatever has been cooked was cooked well. It was done really well. Gordon Ramsay cooked that steak of Sisay for you, because it's come out perfect. And I really like where Sisay is at right now. I think that there still might be a few kinks that you got to figure out in the deck, but I think every deck kind of has that isn't named Tim Necrom. So I think Sisay is in a really good spot, and I've been very, very pleased with the numbers we've gotten from it recently, especially as we've seen it grow since we worked on it like a month ago, right? Like I've seen people take that and iterate off of it in a really interesting way. So that is kind of been my feelings on Sisay. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, Sisay is super, super interesting. I think the thing we are seeing right now with Sisay is that there's two sort of distinct Sisay builds right now. Mm-hmm. There is more of the trad Sisay build, which you see. I think, the
trad wife Sisay. You said trad style, okay. And so it immediately made me think of trad wife. And so
I don't know what that is.
You don't know what a trad wife is? It's a traditional wife. It's like a whole internet thing. God, you sweet summer child, we need to keep you off the internet as much as possible.
me look at cEDH deck. No meme.
Oh my goodness. Anyway.
I also think of traditional tattooing more before I think of any internet meme, because
you are so not chronically online, and it makes me so happy for you.
Sometimes I touch grass. Anyways, traditional Sisay or trad Sisay, you see people like myself, Talaria East, Malcolm. A lot of folks play that style, right? But then there's also these new Chowder hybrids. And I got to shout a major shout out to Transcendental right now, who has had a crazy month, winning the tournament in October, or not in October. Jesus, my brain is shutting off. Who's been playing this basically like Breach hybrid version of the deck, where it's, you have a very, very light Sisay line where you can win with the commander through the command zone, right? But the rest of the deck is much more 5-color mid-range Breach, no Nas and stuff like that, which I know hybrid versions have had in the past, right? But like this feels like the successor to Clam Chowder, right? And if anything, it is. And Brian's been absolutely killing it with that deck, and has won and topped multiple tournaments with it in a row, just because of how consistently the deck is performing in his hands, right? So there is a lot of iteration going on with Sisay. It's not just the same old, activate Planeswalker, et cetera, right? There's a lot. I mean,
from the list that I've looked at, I don't think the Planeswalker lines are really seeing the play that they used to.
Yeah, or the success, right? Like I think that their Planeswalker lines happening, but I don't know that they're the ones that are winning,
Yeah, no, I fully agree with you. No, I love where Sisay's at, man. I love a good, well done medium. Medium rare Sisay build. I love a good medium rare Sisay. It's perfectly good. Yeah.
Also, worthy of noting that our number 2 deck technically had a better month than our number 1 deck.
Yep.
That is, I think, not irrelevant. Now, it's very easy to put our number 1 deck. Obviously, we're talking about Tim Necrom, right? We keep putting Tim Necrom up here because it is just marginally better than the rest of the field. And I want to point out, it is marginally better than the rest of the field, right? There are people who still show up. Actually, there's 75% of people show up with Blue Farm and do not convert with it, right? Mm-hmm. It is not that dominant of a deck that it is converting at 50% of its tournaments, right? It still has very solid numbers, right? It still has about a 30% win rate overall, right? That's still very, very good for a deck that's being represented about 1.5 times most decks, if not more, and so the thing with Blue Farm is that it is, if we look at the entries, right, for this deck, it has 150 entries for the month, right, compared to the next highest, which is Kinnan at 97, right? So like these decks that are considered top decks are being played quite a lot, and Blue Farm more than most, right? And I think there's definitely discrepancies there because there's good players playing it, there's bad players playing it, right? And then there's a lot of thought of just like, hey, default, this deck works. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, which I don't think is a bad mentality, right? That being said, though, it's a flatter tier 1 that I think people give it credit for, and that's my hill to die.
So I had a conversation on Twitter with some people this past month, looking at the data we have, and I just want to point out to some people. I'm just going to look over here at the broader numbers for a moment. Like, there's 150 entries for Timna Crom, and that is half of how many entries we have that are a big old question mark. We are severely limited in our statistical power because of how many decks are not reported correctly or at all. The fact that nearly 17% of all results are unknown commander is an actual indictment upon our format right now. We cannot make strong claims about the best deck, quote unquote, because we don't have any reason to, one, look at that deck and go, this is statistically better than everybody else. It's statistically on par with everybody else. But two, we just also have this giant, I said this in a Twitter post, but if I were to write a paper analyzing these stats, I would have to spend the entire time. First of all, I would get laughed out of the room because the people would look at it and be like, what do you mean your biggest stat number you have is you don't know? Like you can't say any question you could ask has to be completely contextualized by the fact that you don't know 16% of your information. Yeah, that is huge. And so when that is hanging over your head, until we solved the unknown commander issue, our stats are going to be incredibly flawed. There are 4 tournament wins that happened this month, and I don't know what deck they were on. That's insane. There are 14 top 4s, and I don't know what deck they were on. There were 31 top cuts made, and I don't know what deck they were on. That's insane.
Weird, because I thought the new system is supposed to prevent that, is it not?
What do you mean?
The new way the top deck copies decks over to their thing. I thought it
supposedly, but we still have this number. And to give Top Deck credit, Top Deck is taking steps to try and remedy this issue. I don't think this is a Top Deck issue. I think this comes down to individual TOs and the players who private their decks are the issue. So with our top 10, looking at this and the way the format looks, how are you feeling about where the format looks right now? We've got some new decks popping up. What are your thoughts overall?
I got 2 of these big boys, and if you're listening to the podcast, those are thumbs up. No, I'm feeling great about the format, honestly. Final Fantasy was really healthy for this format. It introduced a lot of deck diversity. It introduced a lot of people innovating, trying new stuff. Even, giving us options for archetypes that didn't really have effective options, right? Kefka, for example, giving Grixis midrange an option that actually holds up in the modern day. I'm feeling really solid about these numbers. There are decks that are definitely doing well, and definitely decks that are succeeding very effectively in the current metagame, right? But there's a lot of ebb and flow. I mean, we talked about the differences between our lists from month to month, but I think the fact that there are differences so heavily from our lists month to month is a good thing, right? Not every month are we trying to give a tier list of the best decks, right? We are trying to basically use a top 10 to summarize effectively the ebbs and flows of what has happened as equally, right? Yes. With also adding our own sort of biases, recognitions, all those things to that data set, right? And so what I think is really interesting here is that, to me, the more fluctuation we have on this top 10 list is not us being volatile in our reporting or in what we are saying is the best thing necessarily, but more so an indicator that depending on which pilots bring which decks to a tournament, depending on how the month goes, depending on, if people get really psyched behind some new tech in a certain deck, that month to month, these things can fluctuate and change, right? Look at Sisay. Sisay was a deck that was just kind of doing below average compared to where it used to for a while, right? And I guess barely above average as far as decks in general. And now it's a deck that, with a little extra life breathed into it, is starting to return to these conversations about top decks in the format. I mean, you and I just both ranked it number 2, which is way different than past couple months, right?
I mean, I had it at 8 last month. You didn't even have it ranked last month.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And so that to me is if there was a green flag, that is a green flag for how format is, right? Yes, we have had Tim Necrom and Kinnan and Rogthras high on our lists for a couple months now. That is okay. Like that is okay because these decks are not oppressive. They're just good. And, I'm excited to see what happens in the next couple months. Steel City, I think, is going to be a really big indicator.
I'm interested to see what that event looks like.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I'm not really excited to look at results for the Envy because 90% of the people are like, not 90%, but like a lot of people are just playing Blue Farm because, it's a big tournament and it makes sense to do so. And so like, I'm more genuinely excited for the open results than I am for the invitational. But
I mean, it was similar. We kind of felt that way last year too, right? Where like,
yes, I believe we expressed the exact same
invitational. We were just kind of like, but the open, we were really excited to look at the stats for.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think there's a lot of really cool stuff coming down the pipeline. I think the format's in a really healthy place, to be honest. And I still think that like every single set that comes out is giving us new tools. And like, it's to the point where I feel behind. And sometimes I attend multiple tournaments a weekend, right? Like that's crazy that we are still like I have like 8 decks I still want to explore from the past 2 sets combined. And I'm probably not going to get to them for a really long time, right? Because there's so much stuff. Not to mention the fact that, I want to revisit Winota soon. I want to revisit X amount of other decks that I've like there's so much potential new stuff being added to the format that allows for the ebb and flow of this metagame. And I guarantee a fraction of it gets explored,
One of the things that I think is really cool about like what Final Fantasy did for our format is it feels like it did the opposite of what Lord of the Rings did. Lord of the Rings felt like it gave our format a lot of individual cards or a handful of really powerful individual cards. And from a commander perspective was kind of lacking.
And in Lord of the Rings was, I want to point out, like one of the unhealthiest things that's happened to cEDH in a long time.
Yes.
Like that set was not good for cEDH. We got good cards in the set, to be clear, but was not good for the health of the format at all.
And Final Fantasy feels like it's the polar opposite of that, right?
Yeah.
Where we didn't get individual singular, put this in your deck and this is going to make a huge impact cards. We got some of those, but like none of them were like the One Ring or Oakish Boar Masters. We got like more good commanders that are adding things to the mix. And, I love to see that. I really, really love seeing it. I also love seeing my friend Winota on screen.
Dude, she heard her name,
Yeah. Well,
I was talking about the deck.
Ian, if folks would like to brew any of these decks or get some coaching on these decks, how could they get a hold of you to do so?
Hell yeah, everybody. So, you can find me over at comedianmtg@gmail.com or any of the places in the link tree down below. If you're interested in being coached by the person with the most wins with different commanders or different archetypes than any other player in cEDH. I'm also, number 4 on the leaderboard right now and have been one of the top players for the past 5 years. And also am on a streak where I've top forward the majority of the tournaments I've been to in the past several months. Good enough reasons. I'm never good at the shilling myself part, but we can definitely help you step that game up. Also, I've had a bunch of tournaments lately where I've been playing with people that I've worked with, and that's really cool. And they're up at the top tables with me, and that's an awesome feeling as a coach because I got into doing coaching because I genuinely love teaching. I was always in some sort of capacity doing that. So if you're interested in cEDH coaching, taking your game up to the next level, or if you're interested in any of the thousands of new brews that are out there right now, because the format just feels like it exploded wide open. Those are some of my favorite things to do with people. So come check it out. comedianmtg@gmail.com or any of the places in the link tree that Cal is so generous to post.
If you want to support us here on the podcast, here at the Mind Sculptors, you can go to patreon.com/the Mind Sculptors and help support us there. You get access to our Discord server where us and Phoenix are always hanging out, always available. With that being said, I'm Cal.
I'm Ian.
See you next time. Stay sculpty, everybody.
And let us know in the comments below if you want the Margaritaville episode.